isn't Caitlin Clark what Paige Beckers was supposed to be?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Injuries though, right? Injury without the
Okay,
Injuries
injuries.
okay.
is yeah, injuries. What's up, world? This is We Need the Fifth. It's your man Mo. Got my man P in the building.
What up?
Got my man special guest Kyle in the building. What's going on, man?
What's up, fellas?
Fellas, we had conference championships games last weekend, and all I gotta say is, P, you told me not to do it. And you told me it's against your religion to pick against that man.
Facts.
And I think I gotta become a convert to your religion, because I don't know what I was thinking picking against that man. Mama, there goes that man. Patrick Mahomes punched his another ticket to the Super Bowl, fellas. Did you guys get a chance to see the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Baltimore Ravens? Did you see that man?
Yeah, I mean,
Wheeling and dealing, styling and profiling.
to be fair, you gotta give that defense some credit. Like he didn't have a crazy game. He played good enough. You know what I mean? Timely passes, timely first downs. But
That's all you need, though, Pete. And I think
yeah,
that's the difference.
yeah.
That's the difference between quarterbacks like him and Tom Brady and Joe Montana. That's the difference. That, hey, they don't have a stronger arm than everybody out there. They're not running faster than everybody out there. But during key moments during the game, you know that they're going to show up and that they're going to do their part. Now, if the wide receiver drops the ball, he can't control that. But hey, he's going to do his part. And wow. Kyle, did you get to see the game, man?
I did get a chance to see it. And I think Mahomes is great in that he knows the type of game that he's about to get into. He knew that this was a game where he wasn't going to throw for 400 yards, 3 TDs. He just needed to manage the game enough to allow his defense to do what they needed to do. And he played, I mean, for a low scoring game, 17-10, he played a really clean game. 30 for 39, 241 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. In a defensive game, that's the type of production that you want from your quarterback and whatnot. You just don't want them to turn the ball over. And he was clean. He was clean in that way. And we saw Lamar make those mistakes. And I think that's the difference when you look at great quarterbacks and generational quarterbacks. I mean, you open the segment talking about you don't bet against Mahomes. We don't usually say that about players until later in their careers where they've really kind of established this sort of resume after maybe 10, 15 years and whatnot. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is in year 6, and we're saying you don't bet against him. And you know why? Because he's shown time and time again in a big spot, you don't bet against him.
And I think, to your point, Kyle, he's just willing to do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Whether it's, hey, we gotta give you an air raid attack and I'm gonna give you 400 yards, or to your point, hey, 30 of 39, no interceptions, 1 touchdown, 240 yards, nice and concise and clean. Here you go. It ain't pretty, but know what? It got us to the Super Bowl. I think that's an ability in itself.
Yeah.
I think some of the roadblocks for quarterbacks like Josh Allen, like Lamar, is that they come into games already scripting out how they're going to win it, how they want to win it. And whether it be forcing their coaches to look that way and think, yeah, we're going to set this guy to be the superhero that takes us to the Super Bowl, or the coach's lack of, hey, you know what? It gotta get back down to the grind, and let's just get it however we get it. I think that's the difference. I think Lamar came into the game thinking that he was going to out Patrick Mahomes,
Yep.
instead of just
Yep.
saying, hey, you know what? I'm gonna take whatever the defense gives me, and I'm gonna exploit it, and I'm gonna run it down their throat or jam it down their throat until they learn how to stop it.
Yep.
I think him and the Baltimore Ravens coaching staff came in thinking that they were gonna be cute and throw long passes, and Lamar was gonna air it out and show the world how much of a quarterback he is, and really cement the MVP. Instead of saying, "No, whatever works, whatever's going to get us to the next step, that's what we're willing to do."
Yeah.
And by the time they got back to that kind of feeling, it was too late.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Mo. You know what? It's kind of crazy in that I can understand why Lamar felt like he might have had to prove that just
Mm-hmm.
because of the narratives that are out there.
Yeah.
In a game like this, you want to show that you're trying to, I guess, create some sort of validation and whatnot. And for Patrick, he's already established. If he has a game where he doesn't throw for big yards and he hands the ball off and he wins, there's not going to be any type of narrative that Patrick can't lead a team himself in a big game. But for Lamar, it would have been different. If
Mm-hmm.
Baltimore, I think the Ravens had a total of what, 8 carries for the game. If Baltimore handed the ball off more and then they won that game based on what the running backs did more so than what Lamar's arm did, I think the questions would still be out there
But
about
and,
Lamar.
and I think that's, for me, at least from the little bit that I've seen, that's the maturity of Patrick Mahomes, because I think honestly he started his career like this,
Mhm.
making these type of decisions and stuff like that. Um, but I think that's part of the failings of the coaching at
Mhm.
Baltimore. And I understand the narrative around Lamar, but I want that same energy and vigor to be given to those coaches, because the coaches were part of the,
Right.
strategists for that team.
Yep.
They came up with the strategy for that team, and they decided, for whatever reason, hey, we want to show the world that Lamar can throw the ball, instead of, oh, you know what, we're pretty good at running the ball. Kansas City has had some issues with stopping the run. Let's see if they can stop us. They never, that it for me, that never seemed to be part of the equation for Baltimore. And I gotta blame that on the Harbaugh, bro. That, hey, you don't go to that. Yeah, I just, at some point, I'm expecting the coach to say, all right, we tried to be cute. That's not working. Let's get back to the nitty gritty, the meat and potatoes. Let's get back to what got us here. Let's get back to what we do best, and we'll worry about the Lamar narrative when we're in the Super Bowl. See, that's what a mature team does. And I feel like Baltimore Ravens staff and organization got caught up in the Lamar quote unquote narrative and trying to prove the world wrong, and they pay for it.
Yeah, I mean that's possible. You never really know what the game plan was going in for them. But yeah, I feel like, well, like Kyle was saying, he wouldn't have got the credit, but I think that's part of the maturity where, okay, get your credit in the Super Bowl, right? Okay, this isn't your game that we need that. No, seriously, this isn't the
Yeah,
game
that's
that
what
we
I'm
need.
saying.
No,
Like, yo,
do it on the bigger
definitely.
stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and again,
But
go ahead.
I don't even think it. You know what? I think what happens is cats fit. I think cats misconstrue the moment with the bigger picture,
Hmm.
because like Tom Brady's first Super Bowl win, like nobody remembers what Tom Brady did in that first Super Bowl. They just remember Tom Brady won a Super Bowl. Tom Brady
Yeah.
wasn't
He
the
was
Tom
terrible.
Brady. He was terrible.
Yeah.
So
That Super
so
Bowl. Come on.
like like a guy like so these narratives that that are created that surround the moment. Sometimes guys got to remember, you know what, 20 years down the line, they're not going to remember those narratives that were in the moment. You know what they're going to remember? I won a Super Bowl. And so whether the game plan was based on what the coaches thought was best or based on what maybe Lamar wanted, I think it's the coach's job, and specifically Jim Harbaugh's job, to convince his players that the best game plan for us to win this game is to run the ball.
Mm.
That's ultimately on the head coach. And John Harbaugh, John Harbaugh. Wait, is John in Baltimore?
Yeah.
Yeah.
John in Baltimore. Yeah. Um, he's a very good coach. You got to start having questions about postseason coaching ability at this point when it comes to the Baltimore Ravens. You either got to question Lamar or you got to question the coach, because they haven't. I mean, you got a two-time or potentially two-time MVP. You haven't really, you know what I mean, made a whole lot of noise in the AFC playoffs over the time that you've been together. I don't know who you want to point a finger at. You got to point a finger at somebody.
Wow. On the other side of the bracket, we had the 49ers playing the Detroit Lions. P, I gotta ask this. I know you're a 49er fan. When they went down early, 17 zip, what were you about to throw away all your 49ers paraphernalia? Were you cursing Kyle Shanahan, asking where Purdy was? Where were you at when they went down 17?
Now, if you remember, I thought that was the key for Detroit winning, is to go up early and make Purdy try to come back and beat you. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I was shocked that they came back. I was, and I picked
Look,
San Francisco, but I don't have that much faith in Purdy like that. But he did a good job. And McCaffrey, by the way.
Kyle, were you surprised 49ers got jumped on by the Detroit Lions like that
I,
early
I
on?
was I was I thought now I did think Detroit could potentially challenge the Niners. I didn't think the Niners looked that good the week before against Green Bay, and they were stepping up and weight with the Detroit Lions, because the Lions have a lot of talent. So I thought the Lions. I didn't think they were going to come out that strong the way they did in the
Mm.
first half. I didn't. They just punched. They punched San Francisco in the face right away, and it took San Fran a little while to get up off the mat and get their bearings and whatnot. So I was a
They
little
gave
bit
them.
surprised about that. But
They
I was
gave.
more. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Mo.
No, I'm go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm
You
more
was next.
surprised about I'm more surprised about how Detroit played in the second half. That the coaching for Detroit in the second half was curious to say the least.
Mm. I felt like Detroit gave them 1-2 punch, and San Francisco was reeling, and then I felt Detroit tighten up. It felt like in the second half. It felt like they got tight. They weren't playing as loose and free as they were in the first half.
Do you think Detroit gave that game away, or do you think San Fran won the game?
I think both can be true.
Hmm.
I think Detroit didn't do themselves any favors with some of the mental mistakes, some of the coaching decisions that were made, and also that San Francisco turned up their energy level. And for lack of a better term, or for you, excuse me for using a cliche, but they turned on the switch. It felt like in the second half. It felt like San Francisco didn't realize they were playing a football game until the second half. But and to P's point, I felt Brock Purdy played with a sense of urgency, and I felt Detroit, once things started going south on them and they started losing that momentum, and 49ers started capitalizing on it, it didn't feel like it felt like their players lost some of that energy that they started the first half with for whatever reason.
Like I said before last week, Detroit was a nice story. It's 12 a.m. It's 12 a.m. It's over. I said that last week. It's over.
Don't say that. Don't say.
No, it was a cute story. It was a cute story.
Let those fans have some hope. I mean,
No,
they could.
I said I'm happy for them. They've been the downtrodden franchise. I'm happy for them, but
there's some dishes in the back.
Yeah, it's over.
And how about cut that pumpkin while you're at it?
Yeah, it was a nice story. It was a nice story. It was a nice story.
No, Kyle, we can't let the fans have that. Okay, fellas, the question of the hour. Super Bowl. Chiefs versus 49ers. I think this is the second time Mr. Mahomes has seen this 49ers team in the Super Bowl. Who you got? I'll go with our guest first. Kyle, who you got? Chiefs or 49ers?
Don't bet against that man.
You got a
Don't bet
score
against
for
that
us?
man.
You got a score for us? What did it look like?
I would say 21-17, somewhere around there.
Okay, okay. P.
Man, let me preface this first. Big Colin Kaepernick fan. Me and 49ers have like a strained relationship. Big Colin Kaepernick fan.
Here we go.
Montana's my guy.
Here we
My
go.
guy.
I
But he
thought
didn't
you was a
retire as
49ers fan.
he didn't retire as a 49er. Let's be clear.
Oh, here we go, Kyle.
And on top
He's
of
a
that,
49ers fan, Kyle.
you know
He's
my
a 49ers.
on top of that, y'all know my religion. You know my religion. Kansas City, we'll say 31-28.
Yeah, I gotta double down, triple down on it. Hey, you guys know I'm kind of superstitious, so I usually don't like to even condone all three of us having the same pick, especially if I like the team. But yeah, you don't bet against Patrick Mahomes, man.
Congregation has spoken.
And the Chiefs defense looks a lot better than I thought they were. So I think, yeah, you don't bet against Patrick Mahomes, man. Not anymore.
Good job, fellas, on a Sunday. Good job.
Hey, before I get to the break, want to ask you guys: are you guys watching the Pro Bowl this weekend? Watching NFL Pro Bowl?
I'm not watching the Pro Bowl no weekend. I've never watched the Pro Bowl. I think at most I might have saw a quarter.
And Kyle,
And that's when they
I know
actually played football. When they played football.
You're a bigger football fan than probably me and P. Are you checking the Pro Bowl, NFL Pro Bowl at all nowadays?
Zero, zero. Yep. I didn't even know they started having events on TV already earlier in the week. I zero interest in the Pro Bowl. Zero.
Uh, uh, why does the NFL still do this? Because now they're playing golf at this point.
They have TV contracts. You got to provide programming.
Yeah.
Hey,
Thumbs
hit us
down
up
for the
on
Pro Bowl.
hit us up on social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit that notification button so you know when the next video is coming out. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. Let us know, who do you got for the Super Bowl? You got the Chiefs? You bet with that man? Or you got the 49ers and you believe in Purdy? Hit us up. You can also hit us up directly at weneedafifth@gmail.com. Also, before I go into the next topic, let us know, do you think the NFL needs to scrap the Pro Bowl? I want to start a petition. Let's scrap the Pro Bowl. You play flag football, that's the college. Intramural stuff. You don't do that in the professionals. Hit us up on social media. NBA. There was a story out there earlier this week. I guess a fan had text Kevin Durant and asked him why he wasn't in the GOAT conversation. And Kevin Durant basically said, hey, you tell me. And it made me think, what is the criteria for getting into that GOAT conversation? I know we often talk about who's in that conversation or who we think deserves to be in that conversation, but I don't think we've ever really broken down what the criteria is to get into that conversation. And I want to kind of have that type of discussion right now. P, I know you got some thoughts on this.
Just a couple.
So I'll start with you.
Okay. First things first, I'll start with KD. Personally, think he's a top 20 player all time, possibly top 15. Great player. Period. To answer the question that wasn't asked to me, but it was asked, why isn't he in the conversation? He's never been the best player in the league. He's been second for many years, like maybe 10 years. You could make an argument he's been the second best player in the league. So if you were never the best player of the league in your time, how could you be the GOAT? How could you be the greatest of all time? This doesn't make any sense. You was never number one in your time. So how could you be number one of all time? To me, it's kind of simple.
All right. Let me ask you this question. What's the criteria? Like, hey, is there a certain stat threshold that you're looking at? Certain number of championships? Even a certain effect on the game? Like we were talking off air. For me, for example, Bill Russell deserves to be in the GOAT conversation because of the championships, but also because of the effect that he had on the game. First Black coach in the NBA, first and only player to coach and play for a championship team. I think those two things right there catapults him into that type of discussion. Are there any other criteria besides those that I've named that we think should be put up as, hey, this is a benchmark or a check mark you have to be able to check off if you want to be in this type of conversation?
Kyle looks like he's itching to go.
Kyle, please, yeah.
Nah. I'm agreeing. I think with most of what you guys are saying. I think I think the one part that I tend to agree with, but I'm maybe a little bit uncomfortable with, is that you have to have been the best player at some point during your era.
Mm,
Like Kobe.
hmm
Like in my eyes, it went from MJ to LeBron.
Mm.
hmm I don't
So,
agree with you on
so you
that.
don't think
Are you
Shaq,
are you
Shaq, Kobe, and Duncan at one point? You don't think at no point they?
so at no point now LeBron might have not been better than certain guys those seasons, those Wizards years, but he was always the GOAT
You talking
during
about
his.
Jordan?
I mean, excuse me, not LeBron. Yeah, Jordan. He was always the GOAT. After Mike retired, the only person that I could see entering that conversation that we had that conversation about is LeBron.
Well,
I,
it
I
depends who you
don't.
talk to. Go ahead, Mo. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with you on that.
So
Um,
we thought Kobe was the best player in the league from say 2003 to 2008.
No, I'll just say 2000, probably 2008 to 2010. I think he had like a 3-year run personally.
yeah,
Because
and
it depends who you talk to. I thought Shaq was clearly the best player in the league starting in the 2000s. For that 3-year run, I don't even see how. Yeah.
yeah,
And Kobe's somebody you would put in the GOAT conversation.
yes,
Well, okay. To be honest, I think it's Jordan. Let's cut to the chase. And to me, more compelling is who's second, because I think it's Jordan pretty easily in my personal opinion. But I
mm,
think because of Kobe's, I think Kobe's in the conversation. You know what I mean? Just because at one point, in my opinion, he was the best player on earth. You know what I mean? So anytime you do that, I guess you could be in the conversation.
and I I'm of the thought for me, like I think there's maybe 5 or 6 players that have an argument to be in the conversation. Um, and I think depending on who you talk to will determine who's going to um lead that conversation as the GOAT. If you talk to older, I feel like Jordan, Kobe, LeBron, Kareem, Russell, and Wilt belong in that conversation. And you probably want to add maybe a Shaq to round it out. For me, they all belong in the conversation. If you talk to my uncle, he'll tell you that Kareem is the best thing since sliced bread. He didn't lose until he came to, he won all 4 of his years in high school state championships. He won 3 out of 4. I think no, he only stayed in UCLA for 3 years. He won no, he stayed in UCLA for 4 years. He won 3 championships at UCLA, had 2 back-to-back undefeated seasons where he didn't see a loss until his 3rd season at UCLA. Came to the NBA. All he did was, Milwaukee, you need a championship? Here you go. Here you go, Big O. Here's your championship. And you know what? Ship me to LA and I'll give you one too, Magic. Here you go. Um and led led the league all time in scoring for how many years? Close to 30 years had that record.
But so when we talk in the conversation, I almost feel like it's almost like again, I think it's clearly Jordan. It's kind of almost just paying respect or whatever, giving people a
Mhm,
chance. But
mhm.
do you seriously think? Who do you seriously think would be the GOAT? You know what I mean? Like we could say Kareem, we could say LeBron. They're right there, great players. But I don't like. I feel like I can
And
easily argue Jordan's better than whoever, and I'm
and I think
saying he's the GOAT. There's no hedging on that.
and I think that's part of the reason why I wanted to discuss, hey, what the criteria for being a GOAT is, and what are the benchmarks? Because to your point, Pete, we've all seen Jordan play it, and we have certain ideas of, hey, where he stands on it. But you get other people, older people in the room, it might be Kareem and Bill, because hey, 11 championships is 11 championships.
Right.
And or you get someone younger in the room, they might say, all right, Kobe and LeBron, what are y'all talking about? Or LeBron, because of his stats at this point, with hey, the scoring stats, soon to be rebounding and assist stats, he's going to be in top 10 in most of those statistics of all time. And they may even ask, hey, how come you guys aren't talking about Steph Curry?
Oh no.
So but that's where, hey, the criteria is. Because if the criteria is stats, championships, effect, why isn't a player like Steph Curry in the conversation?
Because he only has 4. Most of the people
okay,
more than 4. I mean,
not all of them though.
Hmm?
Not all of them. Not all of them.
Russell, Kobe, LeBron, Kareem, they all got 4 or better. So, how would Steph even be in the conversation?
I put Wilt in the conversation. That's
and I don't think he should be in, because him and Isaiah Thomas have the same amount of championships. And Isaiah, Wilt, and KD to me aren't in the conversation.
Or Shaq. Shaq only got 4.
You could put him in the. I mean, he has the same amount as LeBron.
He only has
Magic's
4.
name at?
Steph Curry has 4.
Where is Magic's name at in this conversation?
I think he could be in the conversation. That's what I'm saying. I think if you're top 5 or 7, you're in the conversation. But Magic Johnson's not better than Jordan. It's not hard for me to say that.
Hold on. 5 championships, 3 MVPs. I mean, you could arguably say he's the best player in the 80s.
Yeah, okay, so he's in that conversation. But Jordan has more MVPs, more championships. What are we talking about? Like,
okay, so but he's in the conversation at least.
You can put him in the conversation, sure.
And he probably has more of a valid argument than anybody besides maybe LeBron and Bill Russell.
I was about to say that.
And Kareem.
I think LeBron, because of the longevity.
What's up with Kobe, yo?
Kobe,
come on, y'all.
No, we put Kobe. I think Kobe and Magic is kind of like neck and neck to me.
I'm looking at Kyle right now, yo, because he's really being disrespectful to my man Kobe.
No.
Take him out the conversation, and then you leaving his name out of that list. Yeah, man.
No. But look, I agree with you, Mo. And
my man Kobe.
No. But I agree with you in that this conversation really has to be limited to about 5 players. We can't have a GOAT conversation and then, be talking about 20 guys and whatnot. It has to be 5 players that clearly deserve to be in that next tier conversation.
And you saw Kobe, man. Come on, man. He left with 60. You saw what it is.
Well, let's do it.
Does he have?
Let's get fun.
Does he have the 3 MVPs? Does he have the 3 MVPs?
Come on, man. You saw him, man. You saw him play.
Does he have the 3 MVPs?
You saw him play, though, right? You saw him play.
I did. Okay. Excellent player. Excellent player.
That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
Generational.
As long as you got that's the argument for him and Jordan. Like, we got eyes. And I think that's what P is alluding to in his argument for Jordan. Like, hey, yeah, you can name Wilt Chamberlain for better stats. You can name Bill Russell for more championship. But at the end of the day, we have eyes. We saw Jordan, and yeah, he's the GOAT. Like, and I feel like Kobe's done enough. Had a great career where you can say, I got eyes. He belongs in that conversation.
Yeah, for me, Jordan, it's definitely eye test. You know, damn, I wish Hill was here. Like I used to have arguments like in the mid '80s. I thought he used to go then before he won. You know what I'm saying? Like I saw him play against Bird and Magic. I'm like, what are we talking about? He just didn't win yet. And you know me, I'm always like, you have to win a championship first. But young P didn't care. I just thought Jordan was better than all of them. But even if you just look at the stats, MVPs or the totals or the averages, I still think Jordan's the GOAT. Like if I didn't see him play, if I just Googled all these players, I would still pick him out. But like I said though, LeBron, I think the totals is hard to argue. He's about to get 40,000 points, 10,000 assists, that's crazy. So I think that his totals puts him in it, and Russell with the championships puts him in it. Like I think those two have the strongest argument as the GOAT. Maybe not even necessarily the best. We could argue the best player in the GOAT and talent, but I think on paper, Russell and LeBron, it's hard to argue, keep them out the conversation.
Okay.
And I was thinking also, and Kyle, you could chime in on this because we had a conversation about the kid from Purdue. And I don't know what you think about it too, Mo. Like, does the era mean anything? Like as far as big men, like we watching the era where we don't really throw the ball in the post. You know what I mean? So does that take away from a Kareem or a Wilt? You know what I mean? Like, I guess what
I
I
was
was saying,
thinking about that.
thinking about the skill, will those skills translate? Like, what will Wilt be now? What will LeBron be in the 70s? You know what I mean? Like, does that factor in?
I think. Go ahead, Mo.
Go ahead, Kyle. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking about that very exact thing. I don't know if you could have that conversation about whether the skills would translate. I think that's really difficult to kind of just play out. But what I do think with regard to the conversation about the eras that you play is the level of competition during that era. I mean, the level of competition during the 80s when either Magic or Larry or Michael were reigning was fierce. I mean, those are three guys that you could arguably put in the GOAT conversation. I mean, it's kind of like why we look at Ali as the greatest of all time. That era of boxing was the golden era of boxing. I mean, you had Ali, you had Frazier, you had George Foreman, you had Ken Norton, you had greats, and he dominated that era of greats. The 70s in the NBA, I mean, Kareem dominated that era, but who are you looking at out? Who else are you looking at in that era as being another great competitor, another great champion that had to really challenge him and whatnot? And I think that's kind of what takes away from Kareem's greatness overall. Yes, he had all of the accolades. Who was he achieving it over? This is, LeBron. I mean, this is this era right here, and we'll look at it maybe different 20 years from now, because it's hard to gauge in the moment and whatnot. Yes, he beat Steph. Um, he beat KD. He beat Dirk. He's beat some greats, over the course of his career. So I think, that is what's going to give him a legitimate argument for being the GOAT. I mean, obviously we know who Michael has beat. And, he beat everybody that he faced in that 80s, 90s period where he went against not only great players, but all-time great teams. And so I think that's, I think that's more of the conversation, or that's one factor definitely that you have to at least take into consideration when we're talking about who the greats are and whatnot. It's really hard to put a person in a great conversation when they weren't beating other greats.
But you had Bill Walton, you had Ralph Sampson during Kareem's time.
Good players, not greats. All time, not all time greats, not all time greats, not to me at least.
Okay, whatchamacallit? I think to your question, Pete, I think that feeds into my narrative about, hey, the loss of the traditional big man.
Mhm.
And I think where the game is going as far as that, you traditional big men are almost non-existent, to the point where the guy from Purdue, he's an anomaly right now. And to that point, like, with his skill sets, I don't think point guards or guards are being taught how to feed the big men, or take advantage of, hey, when a big man steals, or and in the post and stuff like that. And you're seeing the game being more spread out, moving toward, hey, positionless basketball and whatnot. You see that with Wemby, Chet, Holmgren, where they're not traditional big men, even though they're 7 foot plus, you know.
Speaking
And where traditional big men are having issues in the league. Like I mentioned, DeAndre Ayton or Andre Drummond, or yeah, those are the only two guys. Or a Lively, you know, the game is moving away from utilizing centers in that traditional role. So I think for today's big man, it just, hey, how do I get those stats? Um, and transitioning to a different skill set. Like 20 years ago or 10 years ago, you never think, oh, 7 foot guy, he needs to have guard skills. We need to have him in the dribbling line. We need to have him, practicing on his hand-eye coordination to get his dribble down. You know, you wouldn't think that, but now that's a real thing. And that's a real consideration that coaches and teams have to make. You want a big guy with pretty much guard or at least small forward skill set. And I don't think that should be condemnation on players like Shaq or Wilt or Kareem. It's just, hey, the evolution of the game. Every generation is going to take it to another height. Like
well,
nobody thought you could fly from the free throw line. Whatchamacallit. Listen, that's the evolution of the game. And just like, hey, I wouldn't want someone in Shaq or Jordan or Kareem's era talking about, hey, these new guys don't play real basketball because nobody's able to touch them. That's a foul now. And to Kyle's point, hey, 80s basketball was a lot more physical. And that's part of the competition that I think you're referring to, is that, hey, 70s, 80s, even early 90s, you're allowed to put your hands on an offensive player. And you're allowed to direct their movements, and especially out on the perimeter. It was a lot harder.
so what
And
you're saying,
you all,
is you take it in a vacuum, right? It's almost like you don't go across
yeah,
errors, right?
yeah,
Because
I
if
think you
that's
have
the
to.
case, then the latest is going to be the greatest, right? If you're really going through evolution, then if you play prior to the 2000s, you might not even be in a conversation. If you truly believe the game evolves and evolves and evolves.
I mean,
And I
it
think that's how
involves,
most of these
but that
conversations
doesn't
go,
mean
though.
that, hey, I don't take Bill Russell's greatness in account. That it just means that, hey, I'm not going to diminish. I'm not going to play up. I'm not going to diminish Wembanyama being able to get the number that he's going to be able to get, even though, hey, he didn't face the same type of physicality that Bill Russell or Kareem or Shaq ever faced. He'll never face that as a player, just because of the rules of the game. But that's not his fault. He's only able to play the game that's put in front of him with the rules that's put in front of him. So, but hey, those arguments are out there.
Yeah,
But
I know dudes that play like 2K or whatever. It is fun. It's like the funniest thing in the world. If you watch like younger dudes play 2K, like they don't understand why like Kareem, Will, why are they here? You know what I'm saying? Because they
Yeah.
can't shoot threes. They don't have no handle.
Taking
So
up space.
yeah, it's crazy,
Yeah.
bro. I seen a dude use gold. I know this is a little off top, but I seen a dude use Golden State. And I like at one point he put Nate Thurman in over Wilt because Nate was like a little bit quicker. He could get, you know what I mean? Like
Mm.
Wilt just grab rebounds. I got Steph, I got Clay, I got KD. Yo,
Eh,
Pete
eh,
Bates, who's this Rick Barry guy? But it's hilarious. That's why I kind of thought about like if you're of a certain age, it's LeBron, Kobe, Jordan. What these other dudes did, I'm sorry, they don't care, bro. They really don't care. Like they look at that Magic, like, yo, what does he do?
and
Like
I think
it's
if
crazy.
I have any type of bias, it might be toward the older players
Mhm.
in the sense that, hey, for me, Jordan, he plays in an era where you come down the lane and you dunk on someone, you try to come down the lane again, you're gonna get knocked out. Or somebody's gonna give you a Delarian. Clothesline.
And when I think,
And that was perfectly okay. And that player would continue playing
yeah,
in
and
the
when I
game.
think cross errors, not only do I think about the big man, I think of Jordan. So I think Jordan has been perfectly fine right now.
Oh yeah, he
That's
yeah,
that,
he would live.
and that's another reason why I think he's the GOAT. I don't care what you put him in the 60s, 70s, and now. I think Jordan's good. It
Yeah.
don't
Can
matter.
I can I can I
'Cause
pose another? I'm sorry, Mo.
I,
I just
I
wanted
was
to
just
pose
gonna.
one. Go ahead, Mo.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
super light.
I was
Kobe.
just going to add on to what P was saying in the sense that I think Jordan was right at that crossroads between right before the rules changed and made it a little bit easier on the offensive guys, and still old school. He was right at that crossroads, so we have the visual to say, hey, he could have played in a more physical game. Go ahead, Kyle. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to make, and this is probably my one argument for LeBron as the GOAT. And I think one thing that you probably have to factor into the conversation, and I think it's kind of one thing that we spoke on with Kareem, is expected success versus achieved success. I mean, like LeBron came into this league, Don the King. I mean, the level of pressure that he faced from when he first stepped on the court to even to this day, and the level of and the level of success that he's achieved isn't matched. I mean, Michael didn't face this level of pressure throughout his career. At some point in his career, definitely people started asking the questions, when is he going to win a championship? Can he do it again? He didn't come out with that expectation like LeBron did and have to face that from day one. As a 18-year-old kid, I think that's LeBron's most valid argument for being considered the greatest of all time is that, and we'll look at this with Wemby as his career goes along and whatnot. The expectation of what you're supposed to do in this league versus what you actually accomplish. I mean,
Know what
it's
though, Kyle? He ain't the first player to have high expectations. Like,
no.
and I get
This
what
is
you're
not
saying,
high to say high expectations is an
but
understatement.
he's not the first one to have high expectation and meet them,
No,
and that's basically what we giving them a cookie for.
but no, to be
It's like,
fair,
yo,
I
and for me, I'm sorry to cut you off, P,
no go ahead.
but for me, especially in LeBron's case, where hey, it wasn't like he was in a bubble somewhere and didn't have any type of input into the narrative that was being said about him while he was still in high school.
He's a kid.
Like seriously, like part of the
You act like this is an
expectations
adult
is,
directing
but
all of this. This is a
but
child.
hey, listen, he was getting Hummers in high school, Kyle. He was part of the cog in the machine that
No,
was creating the narrative around him. And part of my objection to that being part of the criteria for GOAT conversation is that, hey, the older players, especially the older players that we were talking about, like Kareem, Bill, Wilt, especially Kareem and Wilt, they came into every league that they play basketball in with that type of height. Come on, y'all. Oh, all right.
Yo, but I want to say though,
we
it's very interesting. We did all of this, and we named all these players. Nobody named KD. Like, so he's just not in the conversation.
No.
Okay.
Look, KD is a great player. I think, but again, I think, and I like I said, I go back to what Mo said. I think you got to limit this conversation probably to about 5 or 6 players. KD might be in that next. We're gonna have that. He's in that next conversation. He's not in this
I just
conversation.
found
He's
it
in the next
interesting. We
conversation.
named a lot of people, and he did not. Steph crept in, and everybody crept in, but no one said KD. That's okay. I think we answered.
I think unfortunately for KD, and it might be unfair to him as a player considering his career and his achievements, but I think in order for him to really cement a place in that conversation and not be a part of the second round conversation of greatest of all time, he's going to have to lead a team to a championship. And it's going to have to be clear that, hey, he did most of the heavy lifting.
Playing God's advocate. Some say he did lead the team to 2 championships already.
I don't know if I would agree with that point.
Some
I think he has to win more. I think he has to win more championships. I don't know if he has to lead a team, but he definitely has to win more championships.
It'll be mute. Like give me about 10 years. We'll revisit this. My son Wemby.
Okay.
Somebody got to be better than Jordan. Has to happen sometimes.
Hey, hit us up on social media. Let us know what you guys think. What's your criteria for the GOAT of basketball? Hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit that notification so you know when the next video is coming out. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. And you can hit us up directly at weneedafifth@gmail.com. Before we get out of here, just want to run a couple of stories by y'all. I want to give a big shout out to Juju Watkins from USC. Scored 51, had a double last week. Scored 51 and 10 rebounds. She set the USC freshman scoring record, breaking Cheryl Miller's record that's been in place for over 30 years. That USC's scoring record, and also has scored the most points this year in Division I basketball, men's or females. So big shout out to her, yo. Also want to shout out to a player that's a friend of the show, Russell Westbrook, became the 25th player to score 25,000 points.
I'm cool. Laughing at that man's milestone. It's like a very nice little feat he accomplished there.
Yeah, man.
Russell.
Yeah. Last thing I want to leave out on in special RIP, rest in power to Carl Weathers. Many people might know him as Apollo Creed, Action Jackson. Also played in numerous films and television. Recently, The Mandalorian. Carl Weathers is an icon in the African American Hollywood community. I would say one of the actors that began to break those barriers, especially when it came to action flicks and sports dramas and stuff like that, and how black men in particular were portrayed and what we can do. Yeah, he passed away this week. Just want to send a special shout out to Carl Weathers and his family. And God bless him on his journey. P, you want to say anything about Carl Weathers?
No, well said. I just, I agree with what you said. Just, childhood memories. Just Rocky, people of our age, one of those franchises that you just always remember, and also in Predator. So rest in peace, rest in power to Carl Weathers.
Anything?
I, just echo everything you guys said, and just rest in peace, Carl Weathers. Thank you for all of the happy moments that you brought to my life through the films and TV shows and just everything that you've done. So just sleep well, sleep well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Um, before we get out of here, fellas, what's on the radar, man? What's on the radar?
Uh, oh, for me, I'm back on Wimby Watch. All this GOAT talk got me back on Wimby Watch, man.
Yeah.
So now that I hear the criteria, I know what to look for. I don't want to hear nothing from nobody. You need this, you need that. Okay. So I'm on Wimby Watch right now. That's what's on my radar.
Kyle, what's on your radar, man?
I'm gonna finish up on this Griselda TV series on Netflix this weekend, and then on that, and I'm trying to catch that We Are the World documentary that they also did on Netflix.
I think I'm on that too, Kyle. I gotta catch up on that Griselda and We Are the World. Sorry. Yeah, and in the Super Bowl, it's been real.
All right, John.
All right, fellas.
All right,
real.
brothers. Yeah.